All right, let's just dive right into this. We're stepping into kind of a dark mystery here today, and I gotta ask you a really serious question right off the bat. Why are you watching this explainer right now instead of doing what you're actually supposed to be doing? Welcome to the scene of the crime.
You know it and I know it. You should be working, maybe sleeping, or honestly just going outside and touching some grass. But nope, you are here. You've plunged yourself right into the center of this super frustrating mystery, the crime of your own behavior. We're going to shine a really harsh cinematic spotlight, complete with dramatic shadows, on exactly what is going on inside your head.
So first things first, we got to look at the forensic difference between two suspects that get confused all the time. Laziness is just openly not doing things because you genuinely don't want to. It's totally unapologetic. But procrastination is actually wanting to act, intending to act, but constantly pushing it off until tomorrow, or, maybe right after you finish this explainer.
Let's move into Section 1, the brain's unusual suspects.
Okay, so just look at this dramatic mismatch between the two prime suspects sitting in the interrogation room of your mind. On one side, you've got the prefrontal cortex. It's the thinky, rational part of your brain that knows studying or working is, good for you. But evolutionarily speaking, it's pretty new and honestly kind of weak. On the exact opposite side is the limbic system. This is your animal, emotional, ancient brain. In this cinematic standoff we've got going on, the limbic system hits like a 260-pound brawler who just sees red and throws bodies on the couch. I mean, it almost always wins the physical fight.
Which brings us to Section 2, the motive, escaping emotion.
Now, we know the limbic system is our heavy hitter here, but why does it fight your best interests? Well, it's actually not malicious at all. It's just this incredibly overactive survival instinct trying to protect you from perceived immediate threats. I mean, look at how fast this thought process escalates. When you're confronted with an assignment that's due next week, your rational brain is like, okay, an hour a day is fine. But your emotional brain completely spirals out of control. It looks at the work and thinks, oh man, if I fail this, I'll fail the class, then I'll fail school, I won't get a job, and I'll literally starve. It turns a little bit of hard work into an immediate life or death threat of starvation. And so what does it do? It tells you to avoid the threat right now so you can survive.
Or, maybe it's not just pure panic. Sometimes the threat comes from completely different angles. Like, the work might just feel totally overwhelming, or there's this lingering fear that if you try your absolute best and still fail, well, then you have no excuse to hide behind. Alternatively, and this is super common, the work simply lacks the immediate dopamine hit of watching Minecraft parkour or endlessly scrolling through Reddit stories.
So here is the absolutely crucial point you need to take away from this. Procrastination is not a time management problem. Not at all. It is a self-regulation failure. It is entirely about your mood. Whenever feeling good right now takes absolute priority over everything else, your emotional brain wins. Delaying the task makes you feel better instantly, repairing your mood in the shadows, but completely at the expense of your future self.
And that brings us to the smoking gun of our entire investigation. It's the classic 6-word lie your brain feeds you to justify delaying a task. I'll feel like doing this later. Because delaying the work makes you feel good in the moment, your brain falsely predicts it will feel just as good to do the task in the future. But the reality? Yeah, probably not.
So how do we fix this? There are two main ways to patch this cognitive flaw. First is the time travel method, where you try to realistically envision the pain of doing the work in the future so you realize it's going to be just as bad as it is today. But honestly, this is super risky. It might actually trick your brain into releasing those juicy satisfaction signals just for thinking about it, almost like you already did the work. The second method is creatively called super stupid. For this one, you aggressively assume your prediction of feeling better later is just completely wrong. And this is way more reliable, because frankly, your brain's mood predictions are almost always totally wrong.
Let's jump to Section 3, the willpower illusion.
Now, if you're sitting there thinking you can just flex your mental muscles to win this battle, you are really setting yourself up for failure. And this builds right upon some fascinating psychological research. In one study, they literally put hungry people in a room with a bunch of cookies. The people who were allowed to eat the cookies retained their willpower and actually performed longer on subsequent tasks than the poor folks who were forced to resist eating them. This basically proves that pure willpower is a finite, highly unreliable resource. Like, sure, you might power through from 10 a.m. to noon, but your productivity is absolutely going to tank right after lunch. We literally cannot rely on willpower alone.
Which brings us to Section 4, tactics to regain control.
Since we obviously can't just willpower our way out of this crime scene, it is time to equip you with some tactical, research-backed countermeasures to outsmart that 260-pound limbic system. First up, we deploy something called implementation intentions. This is a very cold calculating protocol. You essentially treat yourself like a computer running strict if-then statements. By pre-deciding your actions, you completely bypass the emotional weighing process. You literally don't give the emotional brain a single chance to panic or spiral into the shadows because the decision has already been executed in your programming.
Now, to program this code effectively, you have got to be hyper-specific. First, the if statement. You need to identify the exact personal thought that triggers your procrastination. Pinpoint the exact feeling you get. Second is the then statement, and here you counter that feeling with extremely granular starting steps. I mean, we are talking absolute micro steps here, like getting out a specific pen, opening a specific document, and literally just doing the very first problem.
The entire difference between success and failure in this protocol really comes down to specificity. A vague promise like, oh, if I start to procrastinate, then I just won't, is completely doomed to fail. Your emotional brawler is going to just laugh at that. Whereas a highly specific tactical command like, if I think this assignment sucks, then start working right now, is incredibly actionable. You can even use this to block your digital escape routes, right? Like if I open Google and the search is irrelevant, then close Google. It stops you cold right before you vanish into a 2-hour deep dive on overpowered Smash characters.
The second tactic we've got is ruthless elimination. You basically have to clear the crime scene of all weapons. Eliminate your distractions. Put your phone on Do Not Disturb and literally bury it in the deepest, darkest corner of your bag. And this is key. You have to ignore that fake anxiety your brain generates about missing an emergency. Trust me on this. If there is a real, dramatic emergency, there are other people whose actual job it is to handle it. You don't need to be on call 24/7.
Now this part is actually really fascinating. The final twist in our investigation is Tactic 3, self-forgiveness. Research literally shows that individuals who actively forgive themselves for their past procrastination are significantly more likely to redeem their future productivity. Just beating yourself up all the time only creates more negative emotions, which, as we learned earlier, triggers the limbic system to procrastinate even more just to escape those bad feelings. It's this vicious cycle that only forgiveness can actually break. Look, we can't all be as effortlessly cool and productive as Keanu Reeves, right? So we have to go easy on ourselves sometimes. The real question, as we leave this interrogation room is, can you let go of your past guilt to finally break the cycle? Can you forgive yourself, outsmart your own emotional brain, and just start working right now? The choice is entirely yours. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I will catch you in the next one.